Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at Oakwood Village in the houseplant section, and we are going to do a plant spotlight on Aglaonema today. Now, this is also known as Chinese Evergreen. This is a very common houseplant, and I think because one of the reasons is they're fairly easy to grow, but they are used in mallscapes and office buildings and all those types of things, interior scapes, because they're so darn easy. So let's talk about what Aglaonema needs as far as growing well. So to start out with, they are a medium to low indirect lighting plant. So I think that has got a lot to do with it. There's not a lot of low light plants out there that have, fairly colorful foliage. So Chinese Evergreen, especially the classic colors, the dark green and the light green, those really can take those lower light levels. Just so you know, if you have ones that have red veins or pinky red blotching, a little bit more color to them, I would place those in that medium indirect lighting, possibly into the bright indirect light. Never any direct sun with these guys. They will get holes burned through their leaves, they'll get crispy tips. So again, always indirect lighting, medium indirect lighting, you can't go wrong, okay? So again, about 6 to 8 foot away from a northern exposure window, kind of in the middle of a sunny room. That's always a good spot for them. The darker green guys, or maybe that light gray green varieties, you could probably put in the lower light levels, so like in a hallway where you just have enough light that you can read by. That's a really good place for them, or maybe a corner of a living space that you don't get a lot of light. And they can take artificial lighting too, so that makes them really easy to use. As far as the temperatures are concerned, average household temperature. So anywhere from the 60 to 80 degree Fahrenheit mark is great for them. Just remember, when you have warmer temperatures, just make sure that you're keeping them away from the hot drafts, the heat vents, all those types of things. Of course, keep them away from cold drafts, open doors, open windows that you're using. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is humidity with these guys. They do like average humidity to higher humidity. So if you can put them, group them together, put them on a humidity tray, place a humidifier by them, spray mist them in the morning, great. All of those things work very nicely. They'll be very appreciative of that. Another thing with these guys is soil. So average potting soils or potting mixtures, well drained, of course. You don't ever want them sitting in water. They can take average moisture as far as watering is concerned, but it's really better to keep them on the slightly drier side. And we talk about that with almost all houseplants, because if you can thoroughly water them, so moistening the soil substrate, letting the water come out the bottom, and then thoroughly watering them a second time, moistening the soil and letting the water come out, and then placing them back, that's a really, really good thing to wait until they're slightly dry before you reapply water, okay? The reason being is these guys can root rot on you. So they do have an issue with that. So you never want them sitting in water for too long, anything like that. And they are fairly drought tolerant. So even if you totally forgot and you walked away from them, and you think, oh, they'll be fine, and then a couple days later, they're flat on the top of the pot, they've totally wilted. Typically, you can water thoroughly again, and they will pop back up. I don't want you to do that, but they do have some drought tolerance to them. They do carry a lot of moisture in their foliage, and their stems are very succulent. So that's a good thing to think about. Let's see, fertilization, as far as these plants are concerned, it's just during the growing season, so April to September, and you're fertilizing with a multi-purpose plant food once a month typically. If they're in low light levels, you don't have to fertilize as often. You can kind of cut it at half strength, and that would be plenty for them, because of course in low light, they're obviously not photosynthesizing and doing all of those other growth processes as if they were in a higher light situation, okay? So just keep that in mind. As far as features are concerned, these plants are, again, just easy care, very low maintenance, good for a plant beginner, if you will, excellent for a collector because there are so many different varieties, okay? They're also great air purifiers. So they take care of benzene, formaldehyde, so they do a very, very nice job of converting CO2, again, oxygen for us. So great in the office situation, great in a home situation, no problem whatsoever. And I'd say because they're sort of round mounded, low kind of mounded plants, you can place them just about anywhere. You can put them on a table, a nightstand. You can also use them as a floor plant, but I'd probably prop them up on a plant stand just to get that colorful foliage a little bit higher into the room, in somebody's eye point. So something to think about there. Families. There have been a lot of breeding advances in Chinese evergreens. So you're starting to notice a lot more colors. Before, we were just dealing with shades of green, dark green, light green, pale green, gray green, maybe even a little bit of white here and there. But as you can tell, the reds and the pinks have really started to take over these varieties. And that's okay. I just want you to be aware, again, and I mentioned it with lighting, that when you have more color with the Aglaonemas, I think they're a little bit more picky on their care. So do be aware if you're just starting out with them, try the dark green, light green varieties, and then sort of graduate into more of the colorful varieties, especially if they have the pink stems or the white stems. I think that makes them just a little bit more delicate, not as easy. They're still easy care, just they need a little bit more observation, I think, when growing them, okay? Now, different varieties that we have. So let's start off. This is Mary Ann. Mary Ann is kind of that typical old-fashioned classic Chinese evergreen. Beautiful dark green leaves with some nice pale green modeling to it. This is very typical of what you see with a Chinese evergreen. And again, you see this inside offices and malls and those types of things because they're just so easy to grow. Then you start to see varieties that have more of a pale green coloration to it, and then also maybe a lighter stem, if you will, okay? So with this one is what? White Rain. So White Rain does have a beautiful white speckling color to it, and then also Snow White right next door. So Snow White is a really pretty, a little bit more compact variety here as well. Then you start to graduate into those pink varieties. So this is Red Siam, and look at the red stems and that beautiful, medium green leaf, but it has a beautiful mid-vein, red mid-vein, and then also the outer margins of the foliage. So that one's really unique. And then if we go over here, this one is Red Valentine. So more speckling that you see. This almost looks like a caladium to me, the way that the color has kind of become pronounced on the foliage. So that one's a really pretty one. And then this one is gonna be, Garnet Coltrane. I was going to call it Scarlet Coltrane, but Garnet Coltrane. And again, you get a little bit of that reddish pink speckling, but this really pronounced mid-vein as well. A little bit of light green too. So a lot of coloration here. This one in the back that I have is a white stem variety. This is Golden Madonna. So the golden color to me doesn't come out in those low light levels, and it's a it's almost like a creamy color versus a gold color. So you'll get more creamy coloration on this one when you bring it into the medium indirect light and perhaps a little brighter lighting. Okay, other than that, I'm going to tell you that these plants can be divided very, very easily. In spring, you would want to do that. And if you want to make more Chinese evergreens, no problem. So springtime, perfect time really now, where you can go ahead, just remove them from their pot, and you can literally split the individual plants because they do kind of produce stems with clusters or nodes of leaves around them. So in this red Valentine plant, there's about 3 different clusters in here. So if you wanted to make more, go ahead and split in between those leaf clusters, okay? And they divide very, very easily, very well. You can take cuttings of the plant. It takes a little bit more skill. You need some rooting hormone as well. So I always think divisions are just the best option, easiest option to really produce more plants for you. Other than that, I think that's basically Chinese evergreen in a nutshell. Enjoy.